Hello. So in this video, we just wanted to talk about what influences students when they're booking their accommodation. So what sort of influences are there? What will students pay more for? And what is the ultimate decision maker for when they book a student house or accommodation? So this is a lot of the information taken from a recent Knight Frank report. It's the student at UCAS. It's done with UCAS. It's 2020, so it came out in January this year. And we just wanted to break it down because there are we've done an article on this as well, but we just wanted to break it down for you students about what other students look for, what you should look for, and how to sort of get a good house. So when it comes to satisfaction and happiness, what do people, it tells us that people are most satisfied in Sheffield. When it comes to happiness, what do people look for? Location is the biggest one. Location is what students said is the biggest factor in happiness in an accommodation. What does this mean? What is location? Location is independent for each and every person. You know, you could want to be outside the city centre and be in a little bit of greener land, or you could want to be right in the centre. Most students want to be close to the university, close to amenities like shops, and close to the centre of town. So when I say shops, I mean food shops, and I mean retail shops and pubs, clubs, activities, etc. That is a good location. Students like to be most students like to be central and have good access. And when it comes to transport, getting to and from uni is vital. You do not want it to be a massive hassle. So location is a very good place to start. When you're a student looking for a house or an accommodation, look at where it is based. How easy is it to get to university? How easy is it to get to and from the shops? How easy is it to get to and from town? And how close is it to the train and or bus station? This will give you a good starting point. You know if it's in that right sort of area. What you're going to need, if it's outside the area, you're going to need a bike. Have they got places to store a bike? If you're in student accommodation, some of them have free bike use. Pardon me. So you can get to and from university on that bike. The second one, which was quite interesting, was, let me just read it here, is the option to live in the property for more than 1 year. Now, this is because it saves a ton of hassle for students. Finding student housing and accommodation is quite hard. It's quite difficult. And it can be very stressful because it's all based on trust. So you are trusting that the letting agent, landlord, or provider is going to do what they're going to say, and they're going to act on everything they are saying, and they're going to give you a very good experience. Now, if they don't, you can't trust them. So then you're going to have to start looking again next year. Are you going to be looking for you? We're going to be looking as a group. What went wrong this year, and how are we going to change it for next year? So the option, if it is a good house and you want to stay there for more than 1 year because you don't want to find another accommodation, it's a big factor because next year this year you leave all your stuff in there, and next year you just pick it up right where you left off. You usually keep the same room. You might swap if one of your friends is older and leaving, and they have a bigger room. But having the option to live there for 2 years, 3 years is a massive time saver. And if the agent, landlord, or provider is happy, it's a win-win situation. Absolute win-win. Third one I won't go through more, but the third one is number of bedrooms. So having the right amount of bedrooms before that. Having a 3-bedroom house is better than having a 6-bedroom house and only having 3-bedroom people. So make sure that you have the right bedroom house. There are plenty out there. The most common are 3 to 5, and then anything outside of that becomes a little bit harder to find. They are working on studios and bits like that, becoming more and more popular. Back in the room. Right, so if I go, that should do it from here. Right, what's next on the list? So, obviously having the right bedroom helps find it for the right students. But what influences students the most when it comes to student house? So the ultimate decision breaker and maker. This was value for money. This is quite a big topic, and I'll do a lot of videos and articles on this, because what is value? Value is a perception. When someone buys some groceries from the store, one person might think they're cheap and another might think they're expensive. For instance, petrol as well. Some people think petrol is cheap and some people think petrol is expensive. And just to sort of add to that, when you think about petrol and it's £1, when it used to be £1.20, £1.25, £1.26, something like that per litre, you think they've sort of not farmed it but brought it up offshore, they've shipped it back to a plant, it is then turned into petrol, and then it is distributed throughout the UK, usually to stores, and then you have gone through your car up with it. Now, £1.26 per litre, is that good value for money? You decide. That's what value is. Do you think it is good value for your money? Now, this value is very different across the two sectors. So, student accommodation being studios, apartments, cluster flats in the block, and houses. In the student accommodation, you can get on-site gyms, you can get all your bills included. You could possibly get insurance in there. Study room, cinema room, accommodation manager. Free bikes to use. There's tons of stuff, and sometimes even give away free breakfast. Grab and go breakfast. Does that make the room good value for money? That's where you decide. Whereas in a house, you can have a lot more locations to choose from. You can choose from a lot more agents. You can choose the amount of beds you want, and you can choose the rent. So there's more options to choose what type of rent you want, and the sort of service you're going to get from the landlord or letting agent. Is that good value? Is your room big? Is it well designed? Is it unique? Has anyone else got a house like that? Probably not if it's a really good landlord. There are some people creating some absolute masterpieces out there. You've just got to find them. Again, is that value to you? Second biggest deal breaker is overall cost. So your student accommodation is going to be more expensive than your student house, and that is because they have all the added extra. Does that make it valuable? Up to you. Your student house, it's a little bit more static because you can't have all the added extras, but you can choose your location, you can choose your house, and you can choose your letting agent. Whereas student accommodation, a little bit more expensive, but it's usually in one location. Has a couple of types of studios, standard, deluxe, penthouse, all those type of bits, and but you get the added extras, and that's why you get an accommodation manager. It's very, very secure. And that's usually why it's a little bit more expensive. So the overall cost. So what influences is value, and then the overall cost. But will students pay more for these added extras? Thirdly, cleanliness of the bedroom. Biggest one for me. I think this would be a deal breaker for me personally. As soon as you walk into a house, into a bedroom, whether it's just been artificially cleaned, like just the surface, or when it's been deep cleaned. You can really smell it. You can smell the disinfectant. It's like going into a restaurant. The best way for me to judge a restaurant is when you go to the toilets. If you know the toilets are clean, it's likely the kitchens are going to be clean and everything else is going to be clean. If it's not, I get bad impressions. I get a little bit funny with it, and I'm a little bit like, not for me. So cleanliness in a house is very important. Make sure you give it a good clean, and students, make sure you're looking for this, because at the end of when you come to your end of tenancy inspection, they're going to expect you to clean it, and you need to hand it back the way you found it. Now, if you've taken a house that wasn't properly cleaned, you have a case to then say, well, actually, this is how I received it, but always give it back in a better state, always. Fourth on the list, just to mention, that won't go too far down, is the location of the property. So it comes back to that again. Again, student accommodation, it's usually fixed in one place, where your student houses are in many places, but they're usually further out of the centre, and your studios are more central. Which room? So here we talked about value, and how do we see value? How do we show value? How do we offer value? What do we class as value? From this report, these are the rooms that offer the most value. So the one that offered the most value in here was a private property on my own or with a partner rented from a private landlord. So private landlords are sort of setting the standard for value. Why is that seen as valuable? One, because if you're living with a landlord, not living with a landlord, but if you're renting from a landlord, it's usually slightly cheaper. If you're living with a partner, you can then half the rent and half the cost, so then that's good value, and you get to choose roughly whereabouts you can live. Obviously, they're not massively, they are popular, and there's not enough supply of these private landlord sort of studios and one-bed apartments, because they're very hard to create. You can do it in a house, but it's hard. So when these come up, they do obviously get them and buy them, but that's the one with the most value. The second, out of interest, is 53%. A studio or single person flat with university operated hall. Another great one. I think the value here is location. Whereas the value in the other one is being able to rent from a landlord and share it with a partner and split everything in half. That's good value. The value here is location. You're close to university, you're in access of everything. There'll be shops and transport to and from the university if you need it. And the transport hubs in the city will be so easy to get to because that's what they want. There's so many in this report that it gives you quite a lot of insight of students what to look for. So if I was a student looking for accommodation, the first thing I would look at, don't go off price straight away, because when you go off price, you're automatically disregarding a lot of the properties where a property might be £5-10 extra, but you can get so much more with it. It might offer a lot more, stress-free living. It might be, a couple of minutes closer to university. It might have bigger rooms. It might have better beds. It might have a better view. So I look at all the options and go, right, what can I figure? What's the maximum I can spend as my overall cost? Because we figured that's an influencer. What's my overall cost and what fits within there? And then look at the type of houses you can fit for that. So you can figure out your yearly rent. Take that and then start looking around at what is the maximum you can afford and go down from there. Don't go straight for the cheapest. If you go for the cheapest, you knock out everything above, and that will seriously limit your options. Then once you've looked at your overall cost, and then look at location. Location, if it's closer to amenities, it's going to be a little bit more expensive. If it's further out the city, it's going to be slightly less expensive. Sorry, get my words out today. So. And then I'll always book a viewing. Once you've booked a viewing, you can walk around the house, see what it's like, and as I say, always meet the letting agent. They offer 50% of your experience, and I'll do more on that later. Last few bits, what I wanted to talk about here was what would students pay more for? And it goes as no surprise that this would be Wi-Fi. Fast Wi-Fi, you'd be willing to pay more for. So would I. I would not want to be sat in a house where there's a couple of other mates and everything's buffering all the time. It would drive you crazy. If you just want to relax and it's buffering, it does not relax you, So people would be willing to pay more for fast Wi-Fi. If you're a provider, an accommodation provider, don't scrimp on it. It's only going to affect you, The second one is a larger bedroom, naturally, because obviously we prefer a bit more space. And this is a good thing, because if you can get a large bedroom, you can potentially get a bigger bed, you can potentially get a better bed, you can have a bigger desk, you can have more storage space, and it's nice. It's nice to have. It's a luxury in a way, isn't it? And the third one is on-site gym, with a fourth to mention is 24-hour security, because we want to feel safe. As students, it's good for us to have an on-site gym because it means less hassle. In the student accommodation world, there are some providers that are doing it really well. There are some providers that are putting absolute money into their gyms, and there are some which are just saying we've got an on-site gym, but we've got a treadmill, a weight rack that goes up to 10 kgs, and one bike and one cross trainer, and it's a tiny room with mirrors to make it look bigger. That's not a gym. That is not a gym. I might even do a YouTube video on that later. Students are willing to pay more for good gyms, and if you go into the community, you can get a decent gym at about 20 quid a month, 30 quid a month, depending on where you are in the city or country. if you're a accommodation provider, I'd recommend brokering a deal with a gym. Students want to keep fit. There are so many students out there doing it, so make sure you get in line with a gym, offer some discounts to the students, win-win. Finally then, when we're talking about international students, we are looking at what are the biggest factors for them choosing where to live. So again, absolute correlation here at the minute. The first one is value for money, second is overall cost, and third is cleanliness of the bedroom. Same three as when UK residents are choosing. They're looking at what value does it offer, what's it cost overall, and how clean is it. They're the three biggest factors of making and breaking students' decisions and minds in 2020. So when you go into September and you start looking at next year's accommodation, think of those three things. And finally, does it have fast Wi-Fi? If it has fast Wi-Fi, you don't need to pay any more, or could you upgrade? I hope this has been useful. I know we've talked about a lot in here. I could carry on for ages, but subscribe, share it to a friend, and see you soon.